Morning, Janice.
Good morning, Anthony.
Today we're going to answer three recent Solo Ager estate planning questions. These are three recent questions from our readers. So, number one, thank you for reading and thank you for your questions. Oh, a quick tangent. I'm noticing that the term or the phrase that seems to be a bit more popular might be elder orphans rather than solo agers. So please reply or throw up a comment or email us. Let us know what you prefer. But I actually thought orphans was a bit of a downer. That's why I went with
I
solo ager.
agree. I don't know. That sounds kind of sad, but I don't know.
Okay. So let's just dive. Yeah, let's just dive right in. First question: can I disinherit with a poor man's will? Okay. So first, we should answer what is a poor man's will, and then we'll talk about whether or not you can use that to disinherit. Poor man's will is just is kind of a slang term for not having an official will, whether it's through an attorney or do it yourself, but rather just using your beneficiary designations on your bank accounts or brokerage accounts to sort of patch together your estate plan. So that's the poor man's will.
Okay.
And the short answer is yeah, you can do it, but it's probably not going to work out the way you think.
Right.
We see this a lot, Janice. All too often, the beneficiary designations do not reflect your actual final wishes. Whether it's because you forgot, because it's not conspicuously, it's not in your,
right.
So many times people forget. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I still had my ex-girlfriend as a beneficiary on my bank account, because
Right.
it's not like it's there on your statement every month. You just have to remember or call the bank. Who calls their bank and say, hey, who's my beneficiary?
Who can get through to talk to the bank?
Right.
No.
Right.
We find that even I don't know that I've checked in a little while. It's just, you do it and you kind of forget about it because you don't see it again. Right. Yeah.
Another reason why those often don't work out so well is because of changing balances. So you might think, oh, I have it perfectly set up. My savings account is this amount, and I want that amount to go to nephew. And my brokerage account is bigger, and I like niece better, so I'm going to give her the brokerage account. And this other brokerage account, which has these other stocks, I'm going to give to my brother. Okay, perfect. It's all in perfect balance and it's exactly matches my wishes. But what if the stocks in one of your brokerage accounts super overperforms and the other one tanks, and now all of a sudden your wishes are completely out of whack? That happens all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Also, when you do a poor man's will, you don't have the structure of probate to sort of run your estate. I know everyone, all you hear about is avoid probate. And I understand it's long, it can be expensive, and it can be a pain in the butt. But it actually gives sort of rails or structure to the process after somebody passes away. And some of the reasons that's important is to make sure debts get paid, taxes get paid, funeral bills get reimbursed. If you don't have probate, if everything goes outside of probate. Yeah. Which again can work if you do it properly, but if you do a poor man's will, you might run into a situation where who's going to pay for the funeral? It's kind of all up in the air, or the IRS is now hunting down everybody who is named on an account, or whoever's the easiest to track down to pay a tax bill, right? So that might not have been your intention.
Absolutely, you're going to leave some more issues than you intended, and
possibly, yeah.
Yep. And probate, although it's tough, it has checks and balances, right? Make sure everything gets done correctly, and you don't have to worry about it.
And then lastly, for why a poor man's will might not be a great idea is because you don't without a probate estate, there's no funds to have an executor, for solo agers in particular, to have a professional executor take charge. Right. If all the assets have a named beneficiary on there, there's no operating account, there's no estate to pay an executor. So I'm not going to get involved, and I don't think most people will.
Right. No.
Because there's no compensation, and there's, let's see what happens, basically.
Right. It is what it is. You do like to get paid for the work that you do, and unfortunately, if it's not there, that's tough. So
the alternative so how do you disinherit instead of using, the poor man's will is usually you do what's called an interim clause with a disincentive payment. An interim clause is where you disinherit somebody, and you say if they try to object to this will, then they're cut out of the will. But that only works if they're going to get something, right? If you're saying you get nothing, but if you object, you get more nothing. It doesn't really do anything.
More of a nothing.
But if you say, hey, look, I'll give you $5,000, but if you disinherit, you won't even get that. you know?
Right.
And 5,000 is a number I just picked out of thin air. It could be larger, it could be smaller. It depends on the size of your estate and what is the amount necessary or what that you believe will be sufficient, just sufficient
Just enough.
to make that person say, I'll just take the 5,000, you know?
Yep. I know that we've talked about this before, so maybe we can try to put that in the comments, but we've talked about that interim clause at length in another podcast.
I think we have one older episode, but maybe it's a time for a refresh. So thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So the next question we got from one of our much appreciated Solo Ager readers is, who will scatter my ashes if I move out of state? So the question is, okay, I name somebody as my, funeral arrangement person. But if I, meaning the Solo Ager, move from New York to, I think she said North Carolina or something like that, what happens? Will my executor from New York, in this case me,
right.
come out and take care of that? So the answer is yes, no problem. We've done this before. Believe it or not, FedEx does deliver ashes. I mean,
yeah, they do.
I guess they deliver everything. It's not a huge deal. We'll work with, in my hypothetical, a North Carolina local funeral director to make sure the ashes get shipped to me. I've done this before. Not a big deal. The only drawback is that these sort of extra steps will have to be paid for out of the estate. The alternative is if you need me to fly down or travel down to North Carolina, we can do that too, as long as the estate has sufficient funds to cover that. I travel modestly for estates,
Right. Absolutely.
I won't be at the what's the fancy hotel?
The Ritz-Carlton first class, right?
And if it's just to scatter your ashes, I can handle it.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
No, not at all.
For those wondering, like, what exactly do you do aside from being a lawyer? And this is part of what we do. I've handled funeral arrangements. I've handled pretty much everything. Yes. All right. And the last question from one of our Solo Ager readers, who should I hire to make my funeral arrangements? So this is very similar to the prior question about scattering the ashes. And our reader asks, well, should it be you or should it be somebody else? Or should it be you, Anthony, as a professional executor? Or should I use a prepaid arrangement? There's sort of a bunch of questions all wrapped.
That's a good question. Yeah.
So we generally, is hiring a person better than buying a prepaid funeral plan? I'm generally not a fan of prepaid funeral plans. With all respect to my funeral director colleagues, I'm not a fan of prepaying for anything. I mean, it's too. If you want to set aside money, in an account for your heirs to be able to pay for your funeral upon your passing, that's great. Okay. But locking yourself into a prepaid plan, number one, funeral homes are not great managers of other people's money. We actually learned this the hard way when, I guess I can't say the name, but Janice, you remember the case where one of our estates was a funeral home director.
Okay.
Yep. So we had to wind down the funeral home, and part of that was sort of opening up the books and seeing, who was owed what. We had to give back money for prepaid funeral plans to everyone who had one because
now
our funeral director had passed.
Right.
The record keeping was not great, and the money was not well organized.
Yep.
I mean, I guess I shouldn't laugh. But I'm just saying at the absurdity of it. We don't really,
so
advocate
much can
that.
happen.
Yeah, choose somebody.
Right.
There are court forms. There are legal documents for choosing the person who will be in charge, and then you can either have a large enough estate or a separate account designated for that purpose. Yeah.
Yep. And you also can change your mind of where you want to be. I know I have some family members now that are dealing with, they were in one state and had everything settled and had their plots and things like that, and then moved and didn't want to have it, go back to the old state. So now they have to kind of get out of one and go to another. And things change, right?
100%. Yeah. Just like with any other part of your estate plan, don't lock things in up too much because you don't know what you're going to be feeling or wanting 5, 10, even next year. Who knows?
Right.
All right. So a follow-up question or similar question is my professional executor, or Anthony, are you as my professional executor a one-stop shop, in quotes, handle everything, not just legal and financial decisions, but final affairs like this? Yeah. And that's kind of why we, if you ask me to serve as your professional executor, over the years, we do those annual check-in calls and emails because I need to get to know you. I can't just meet you once or talk once and then, have my name on your documents and that's it. I need to kind of I'm not, we don't have to be best friends. We don't have to, have tea every week, but we need to have a relationship where I have a general sense of how to effectively like know and carry out your wishes. So
right, and you talk about that. If that's one of the things they want you to do, you'll ask, and I know you do the update calls, and you'll say, "Has anything changed? Has your wishes changed?" And yeah.
And then, we already covered this. Lastly, the readers ask, about using a funeral director. Oh, excuse me. Should I name my funeral director as my executor? And that's just a hard no. I mean, unless your funeral director is a unique individual who has experience, like significant experience serving as executor, which I've never seen. It's just a completely different skill set. I mean, a funeral director could be excellent at managing final affairs and ceremonies. But it's just completely different. Just because there's tangential relationship of death between the two roles doesn't mean they're even remotely related. So no, don't do that.
Yeah, they're two.
I guess that's pretty blunt.
It is. They're just two separate things. Yeah.
So that's it. Those are the 3 questions we have from our lovely readers and listeners. Appreciate those. And please keep sending them in so that we can try our best to help out and put your minds at ease.
Absolutely. And some of you are on that email list where I send the emails every now and then. So reply back and, ask a couple of these little questions. This definitely helps us. And if you don't have a copy of Anthony's book, The Solo Ager Estate Plan, there should be a link down in the comments.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone, for reading, listening, and submitting your questions. Thanks, Janice. As always, we will talk soon next time.
Talk soon.
Bye.